Floods, hurricanes, broken pipes, even water from putting out a fire. These are just a few of the things that can cause water damage to your home or business. Hi there. We're water restoration specialists. You know, dealing with water damage can be stressful, traumatic, and very expensive. You're probably worrying right now about just how long it's going to take to get your life back in order, and exactly what we're going to have to do to accomplish that. While this is hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime event for you, we deal with situations like this every day. Our entire business is built around restoring your property to pre-loss condition and getting your life back on track as fast as possible. We work with insurance companies all the time and are very familiar with what we need to do to make the process go smoothly for all involved parties. In this video, I'll explain how we're going to restore your property using the Thermal Energy System, or TESS, and directed heat drying. The key to successful restoration is speed. Drying out buildings fast reduces the chance for what we call secondary damage. Secondary damage includes things such as mold growth, damage to structural materials like framing, drywall, or flooring, and damage caused by high humidity to books, papers, artwork, and so on. That's why we use the most advanced drying equipment and techniques. It's based on cutting-edge drying science and works 2 to 3 times faster than conventional drying systems. Before I explain why the TESS system works so well, it's important to understand the old way of doing things. Conventional restoration is based on the principle of simply drying the air inside a building. This is done with dehumidifiers that slowly remove water from the air, condense it into liquid form, and then pump it into buckets or drains. The idea is that as the air gets drier and drier, the moisture in wet carpet and pads, walls, or floors will be drawn out of the materials as a vapor. The vapors are then removed by the dehumidifiers. Industrial fans are also used to speed evaporation from the wet materials. This method of drying buildings was developed decades ago, and it does work, but it has several drawbacks. First, it's slow. It can easily take 5 to 7 days to dry a water-damaged home or business correctly. More complex cases can take even longer. Second, if the structure is not completely dried fast enough, some materials may have to be replaced that could otherwise be saved. This increases the cost and the time to complete the job. Third, it takes a lot of equipment that's very loud and hard to live with. And if it gets turned off, for example at night, the process of drying the air has to start all over again. Fourth, the amount of disruption to a household or business is really stressful and makes the entire restoration experience more of a nightmare than it has to be. While there are certain situations where using conventional drying systems still makes sense, we utilize TESS equipment and directed heat drying. Directed heat drying is 2 to 3 times faster than conventional dehumidifier-based restoration. Here's why. Instead of drying the air, we deliver heat right to the water in wet materials. Heating up the water actually speeds up the water molecules, making it really want to evaporate. With this method, we don't have to spend any time drying the air because the heated up water wants to jump out of wet materials and into the air. Once that happens, we simply exhaust it to the outside with a temperature-controlled fan. Now, there's a lot of fancy science that explains this, but it might be easiest to understand using some common household examples. Have you ever stepped out of a hot shower into a bathroom filled with steamy air? Moisture is condensed on the mirror, counter, and other surfaces. But if you point your hairdryer at the mirror for a minute, it clears right up. You can even dry your hair in this environment. You also use these exact same principles of drying science when you dry your clothes in the clothes dryer. Both of these are examples of the same drying science that we use with our TESS equipment. Here's how we do it in your home or business. First, we use sophisticated instruments to determine the extent of the water damage. We then extract all the water we can in liquid form. The next step, and the key to our system, is to direct heated air to the water in the wet materials. For maximum effectiveness, we want to contain the heat only to those areas that are wet. After all, why heat up parts of the building that are already dry? Then we focus the heat where we want it to go with a number of techniques, such as directing warm air in between carpet and pad. This allows warm air to not only dry the carpet and pad, but also the subfloor, drywall, and sill plates. When damage has occurred to certain building elements, we contain the area using plastic or other materials. This ensures the warm air goes to the wet materials and nowhere else. We also use other specialized equipment in conjunction with TESS and directed heat drying principles. Specialized equipment is occasionally needed to dry difficult materials, such as wood floors, insulated walls, plaster, stone and tile, cabinets, concrete, and so on. By using heat, the ambient air in the affected areas of your home or business will get warmer than usual. However, because we contain and treat only the affected areas, the rest of your home will be at a normal temperature. Even then, our system doesn't need to superheat the areas being treated. We maintain the temperature within a safe zone of between 95 and 99 degrees. There's no need to worry about damaging appliances, electronics, or even houseplants in the affected areas. We do recommend removing cosmetics, candles, perishable foods, or anything else that might melt or spoil on a hot summer day. While there are other heat drying systems on the market, they overheat your whole house, making it nearly impossible to live there during treatment. The extra heat also may cause major damage to appliances, electronics, and more. Only TESS uses the directed heat drying concept that contains the heat only where we need it, to the wet materials. Directed heat drying also has an important health benefit. Because this system dries so fast, it eliminates conditions that allow mold and mildew to grow from the instant we begin drying. In addition, the operating temperatures of our drying system inhibit the growth of the vast majority of mold and fungi. And we don't leave the job until everything is dry. Our technicians check to make sure that your home or business is dry to the proper industry standards. Most of the time, we can dry water damage while you still occupy your home or business. If the damage is so severe that you cannot occupy the premises, our faster drying will get you back in much faster than other types of drying systems. What many property owners love about directed heat drying is how quiet it is. With conventional restoration, it can sound like an airplane inside the building because of all the noisy equipment. We use far fewer fans, and the heat component of our system is totally silent. You'll be able to live, work, or sleep comfortably while restoration is progressing. One of the biggest benefits of drying faster with directed heat drying is that we'll save far more of the structure and contents than any other method. We'll safely save carpet and pad, drywall, wood flooring, cabinets, tile and grout floors, stone and concrete, things that can't always be saved with conventional restoration. If these materials have to be replaced, it can increase the cost of restoration by thousands of dollars. It could also extend the time to complete the job by days, weeks, or even months. With directed heat drying and TESS, you won't have to worry about exceeding policy limits or having strangers from a variety of contractors in your home for weeks on end, spreading construction dust and dirt all over everything. Of course, if there is damage that simply cannot be restored, these items will have to be repaired or replaced. However, with our drying system, there will be less reconstruction than any other drying system. And directed heat drying is a very green way to restore your property. Because we're on site for less time, we consume less electricity and use less gas going back and forth. And because we save the majority of materials, we save space in the landfill and are able to reduce the amount of chemical disinfectants applied. Your insurance company will also really appreciate that we use directed heat drying. Because we restore so much more than conventional restorers, there's far less replacement. This means that they can save thousands of dollars per claim and get their files closed much, much faster. Plus, they're really concerned about delivering great service to their policyholders when they have a claim. That's because they want them to renew their policies and also tell other people how great they were in handling the claim. We're so enthusiastic about our TESS equipment and direct heat drying because it's a better and faster way to dry. If we could choose any system to dry our own homes, this is the one we'd use.
We were pleasantly surprised that TESS was able to dry everything out so quickly. We were able to save a lot of money from not having to replace everything down here, and we were able to quickly resume our use of our new basement.
Because of the TES system, they came in, they cleaned everything up, and we were back in business in a couple of days.
We didn't lose anything. We didn't lose our carpet, we didn't lose our flooring, we didn't lose any of our storage items. We were really happy.
From a standpoint of cost, we definitely saved thousands of dollars.
It dried out all the drywall, the floors, and they actually came in over the weekend and didn't affect our business at all.
The TES system saved me a lot of money, a lot of time, and I definitely recommend it to anybody.
We've had a lot of floods in the past, and with the old way, it was a real hassle. The TES system makes all the difference.
With this new thermal energy system, you can rest assured you're in good hands. We're going to get right to work to get your life back to normal fast.
Today we're going to take you on a tour of one of our fully equipped water damage restoration trucks. We'll begin our tour with the bins and boxes on the side of the truck. In the first bin you'll see some general cleaning and safety equipment. On the bottom is the safety equipment that we use in the case of a sewer damage to keep our technicians safe as well as the residents of your home. The second bin contains our floor covering reinstallation tools that we use to properly re-stretch carpets that have been affected by the moisture so that you don't have any problems down the road. The third bin is kind of our general purpose bin. We keep smaller items like trash bags, tape, gloves, booties that we put on our feet to protect the flooring in your property, as well as Tyvek suits or safety suits that we use in the case of contaminated or sewer water cleanup. The last two bins contain extension cords and additional solution lines that we primarily use to set up our drying equipment and systems safely and properly in your structure. To begin the back of the tour, on the back door of the truck, you'll see on the left side we have styrofoam blocks that we use to protect your contents and furnishings from the water on the floor, as well as a first aid kit and a floor scraper. Mounted on the right door of the back of the truck, you'll see our solution lines that we use that connect to our cleaning and extraction unit that we'll show you here in just one moment. On the bottom of the truck you'll see our commercial dehumidification units. Those are used to remove the excess moisture and humidity from the air in your property. Across the top left you'll see our blue commercial air movers. Those are basically used to create that evaporation, get that moisture in the air so that the dehumidifiers can use it. Attached to the ceiling you'll see some general cleaning and demolition tools. Across and through the back on both the right, straight back, and top on the left, you'll see the devices that we use to hook up to the equipment that creates the systems that we use to dry hardwood floors, interior, exterior, and insulated walls, as well as cabinets and cabinet voids. You'll see there on the left with the red cord, that's our extraction device that we hook up to the machine to extract the water from both the carpet and the pad. In the center bin, on the bottom, you'll see a heating unit that we use to assist in drying dense structural materials like hardwood floors and plaster. In the top right, you'll see the tools and equipment that we connect to the structural drying systems for walls and again cabinets and hardwood floors. To the right of that in the silver toolboxes, you'll see our HydroTrack system. We use that to track and monitor the drying system and its progress to make sure that the structure is properly dried and documented, and that information can be sent to your insurance company. As we come around the right side of the truck, we'll see our completely self-contained water extraction and cleaning unit. It's powered by its own 4-cylinder engine, and we use this for the initial water extraction as well as the final cleaning of the floor coverings in your property. Thank you very much.
Extraction, the first and most important step in structural drying, is being demonstrated using two different pieces of equipment. First with the Hydro X extractor, and then showing the water claw. The recommended way to assure adequate extraction is by performing the carpet cushion squeeze test. Here, the living room has been set up to dry following IICRC guidelines for the number of dehumidifiers and both the number and placement of air movers. Note how we leave the contents in the rooms. They will dry quickly in the drying chamber that we have created. The kitchen drying demo also shows a great way to dry kitchen cabinets, a huge claim dollar saver. Also note the air scrubber. We highly recommend one and the homeowner really appreciates it. The bedroom represents our Class 3 loss requiring a wall drying system, one of which is demonstrated here. The closet walls are made of a different material, another requirement of the IICRC. Our technicians are required to monitor their jobs daily using several meters, including moisture sensors, non-penetrating and penetrating meters to determine material moisture content, and thermal hygrometers to measure temperature and relative humidity.
There, and let's extract this here. We can do that. That's good. Now, by simply using the wand, which is what most companies will do, and that's why they have to tear the pad out, you can see that if I pull this up, I can literally wring water out of this pad. So, by utilizing today's technology, this is known as the claw, what we can do, go ahead and hook this up. That'll work just fine. Go ahead and demonstrate that. If you can get it's kind of hard for you to visualize here, but you can see how much water is coming through this tool. This tool is actually pulling out of the pad. Get right up on the edge of that if you can. There we go. Go ahead and stand on that. And basically, by standing on this for a count of 7 or 10, 7 to 10, we can get this dry. Go ahead and go back one. Okay. Go ahead and get that out of the way and set it back there. Pop that hose up there. What we have now is I cannot wring any water out of this pad. So what we've done here is taken out 97 to 99% of the moisture. It is simply just damp.
Let's go to the job now. This is a regular real-life flooded situation. We'll begin with doing a good extraction. Here we're using the Extreme Extractor weighted system. We recommend that if you're going to dry in a 30-hour period or less, that you begin with good extraction. That usually requires 2, 3, 4 passes with a weighted extractor, or by definitely using the water claw, which it will now be demonstrated to you. Water claw is placed on there, stepped on, and then moved to the next position. Actually, I think he should be, if you want to really get all the excess moisture, he should probably wait a little longer. But this is called a subsurface extraction, and it's critical to getting as much excess moisture out before you begin the drying or evaporation process. Just in that little short demonstration, though, you can see that no excess water can be wrung out of the pad at this point, which is where you want it to be before you begin the drying process. During the extraction process, it's very critical to eliminate as much moisture out of the air as possible. We're going to do this by taking a standard air mover, if we have the access to a window, hook some lay-flat ducting up to it, and vent it, turn it on and vent it out a window. This will take, as you're extracting, or it's all full of moisture anyway, this will take all the excess air and dump it, the excess humidity, and dump as much of it to the outside as possible. We leave this running the whole time we're doing the extraction process. If the outside environment is not conducive, in other words, if it's wet or cold or whatever, then you can use some foam wedges to prevent any wet or cold air or too warm of air from coming inside, just whatever the environment is. Once we got the evacuation fan hooked up, we'll now disengage a corner of the carpet and get it ready to start the structural drying with the test system and the text boxes. You do this by disengaging the carpet, pull it back about 4 feet, just enough room to place the text box in the corner. We want to leave the text box usually about 4 or 5 inches from the wall. I'll explain that later. Place it in the corner, and then take a razor knife and slit the carpet pad or cushion along the edge, both edges of the text box. Just use it as a guide and run a razor knife down. We're going to create 2 little dog ears to pull back over the carpet, and that will help us later in our drying process. So you see he's run the razor knife there. Just take his hand and carefully pull that over and fold it forward a little bit, making sure that you've got that dog ear type cut. He'll do that on both sides. We're going to fold this over the top eventually to help contain the heat to the underneath the carpet. The way you begin a float or start the float is to straddle the text box, fold the carpet back, and place it in the carpet clamp securely, giving it a little tug. That will hold the carpet in place, prevent it from flopping. You're then going to take those dog ear cuts of the padding and fold them back over the carpet. And then, as you'll see here in a moment, we're going to secure those with an accessory we have with the test system, just called a carpet pin or a corkscrew pin. We're going to use these in this case to pin or screw the padding to the carpet. This will hold it in place. The reason we want to do this is we want to keep our heat contained under the carpet, and unless we did this, the heat through back pressure would just escape out along the back of the text box. So by folding the carpet over by folding the cushion over the carpet, we contain that heat. There you can see we've used 2 pins on each side of the text box, which is usually adequate. We also have another accessory, just some 10-pound sandbags in a nylon bag themselves so they don't drip or leak out, and they're used to set on the edge of the carpet so the carpet does not become disengaged any further from the tack strip. Now take a standard air mover. Any standard air mover in the industry will work. It does not necessarily have to be a high pressure one. A 5 amp or a half horse would probably be adequate for most jobs. If you do get a very large room and you need that's going to be a little harder to float, then perhaps using a high-powered or high-pressure fan might be appropriate in that case. Plug that in. We don't have our hydronic hoses hooked up yet, but that will be basically, we're now ready to attach them and begin our drying process. We do that by feeding the hoses into the home and attaching them to the text box. Again, the red usually indicates that's the hot coming in and blue returning. In just a moment, we're going to show you some splitter tees that you can use inside the home or outside the home to hook up multiple boxes. This application, we're very close to the text box or the test unit, which makes it convenient. But if you have longer runs, you can run a feeder hose through these using this splitter tee. You can run a feeder hose to the house. There's a shot hooking it up to the unit. There we go. Then the feeder hose to the house and split there, going to 2 or 4 boxes. Because we want to maintain a float, we normally just take some very simple rods and strap them between doors to keep the hoses lifted up off the carpet so we have a soft float. The whole key to the test system is to contain the heat into the wet materials. You can see here that we've used quick connect wraps to wrap around the hot fittings there so no one was going to get lightly burned there. We're now ready to demonstrate how to do an appropriate soft float. The key to the test system is to contain the heat, and so we will use the carpet to force the heat down into the wet materials and also out along the wall. As you can see there, when we first turn it on, we do have a little bit of movement in the carpet, which we want to avoid. So he's going to begin to kind of massage and pull that text box backwards until we get all of the rippling or the flopping of the carpet. You'll see that he's going to do that, or it's not set up properly yet. And now it is. All we've done is lifted the carpet lightly. As he taps on it, you can see we do have a nice soft float going. Just to demonstrate, we're not trying to balloon the carpet, we're just trying to get a soft float. If there's areas that are tightly tacked down, like at the bottom of this staircase or the threshold of a door, you can also use some of these carpet pins or the corkscrew pins by screwing them halfway down under the carpet, then standing them up straight, and that's going to allow the heat to transfer under those areas that normally do not, that are harder to get lifted. This is our evacuation control device, our thermostatically controlled evacuation unit that you will actually plug the air mover with the lay flat ducting on. I cannot give you detailed information or setup on this right now, but there is a manual that will teach you how to do this. It's a simple process. We have 2 versions of this. One that has a two-stage, allow you to hook up 2 evacuation fans, or a single stage. Single stage is adequate in most applications, but you might find a need for a dual stage. Again, refer to a manual on how to set the timer on this. It does have a sensor that you can just tape to a mid to high range level in the home, so it can sense the temperature that the home is going to achieve. As you can see, when he turns the fan on there, it does not go on immediately because it has to wait for the temperature and then also the excess moisture in the air to be sensed and then evacuated to the outside. The sensor, if this were set at 90 degrees, for example, turns itself on. When it reaches 90, unloads the excess heat and moisture to the outside, and then when it drops usually, and you can set this 5 to 10 degrees, it'll turn itself back off, and it'll just stay in the lay flat application until the heat comes back up and turn itself back on. Occasionally you're going to have furniture that you can't move out of a room, and so you're going to use a furniture stand called the floater. This is a heavy-duty stainless steel stand that you can put under furnishings, pool tables, sofas. In this case, we're doing a big screen TV. We're setting it on 4 pins, and then we will actually just kind of take a little pair of pliers and tug the carpet up to the edge, and this allows, you can see the carpet's already floating, but this just allows heat and therefore drying capabilities to move under the furniture that has to stay there. I should make a note, even though we are showing a big screen TV, be careful of electronics. Take them out of the environment if you can, not letting them get too hot. But if you have your thermostat control set at 90 degrees, you probably would be okay in this situation. But that's how you would float a bed, a dresser, pool table, and so forth, is with these furniture stands. That allows us to dry the floor under where they